Right. I think we should kick off actually, and then I'll let any remaining people in as they come. So, thank you everybody for coming along this evening, and thank you to Mr. Elliot Grove. So, Elliot, we are delighted to have you with us tonight. And as many of you know, Elliot is many things. He is the founder of the Raindance Film Festival, the founder of BIFA, the founder of the Raindance Film School, and so many other things. Elliot writes, produces, creates. He's a mentor to many of us here and many creative entrepreneurs. And yes, welcome, Elliot.
Thanks for having me, and great to see you all. By the way, Jenny, someone is
I
saying there's
can
no
see
sound.
there's no sound. I mean, sound seems to be working for me. Is it not working for other people?
Sound is fine. It's got to
Yeah,
be
could
there.
be the other
Yeah,
end. Could be the
yeah.
other end.
So it may be worth checking if you can't hear, just checking your own systems. So Elliot, to kick us off, can you tell us how it all began? You know, when did you first realize that you were a creative genius and entrepreneur?
Well, I grew up on a farm outside Toronto, and farm people have a way of making do with what they've got. And I was always fascinated watching my mom quilt and my dad make benches and stuff like that. And then I left home and I went to art school in Toronto where I learned how to be a sculptor assistant. And with that in my back pocket, came over here first in the mid 70s, worked for a while for Henry Moore, this famous sculptor. And then I worked as a stagehand at the BBC for a couple of years. And then I went back home and I stayed home and for 9 years, got married, had kids. And during which time I was doing anything but the creative arts. And I ended up uh, coming back to London in the mid 80s, fashioned myself as a property entrepreneur, buying and selling flats and learning the property market. Went horribly bust in 1991 in the last recession, during which time I had two kids and we had literally no money. Horrible, horrible, much worse than what we're about to go through, I hope, that we're about to go through now. Interest rates went to 24%. Can you believe that? Anyway, I then decided on a whim to start Raindance. And, you know, we were started doing courses, bringing people over from America, make a little bit of money. And then one day, me and a couple of people were sitting around a table, a park bench. One of those people was Edgar Wright. And we thought, you know, we're all making movies. Why don't we hire a cinema and play them? So maybe the entrepreneur type, I suppose, if you can call it that, went down to the Prince Charles Cinema in Leicester Square and found out what they charged for a couple of days rental. And I thought, well, we can do this. We can have a film festival. And that was in 1993. I had exactly $150 to my pounds to my name, but I wanted to get industry to come. And remember, I knew nothing about filmmaking at this point. I had picked up that May, the Variety every year does a product guide. This is a really useful tool, anyone writing or making movies, to get the product guide from one of the trade papers, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, or the British one, Screen International. I got the Variety one, I still have it in the office, and I circled 100 movies that I thought I would like to come to Raindance. One of them, What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Um, and because in Variety they had the fax number back in the day and the person's name you had to send the fax to. Now at that time I was sharing office, a little place out in West London in Chelsea Wharf, and they had a fax machine that you could pay £1 per page international. And I had £100 and I sent 100, the same fax 100 times. I would just white out and write in the new person's name. And 63 of those films showed up. And then the festival happened, and we were sitting around right after the festival. My God, we can actually do this. And that's kind of how it started. We started from absolutely nothing, just three of us sitting around a table, trying to figure out stuff. A far cry from the amazing team that I'm surrounded with now. Jennie knows some of them, Tony knows some of them. And we're still here 30 years later, still flying the flag.
Well, I think we're all really grateful that you did take that leap, Elliot, back in the day. I mean, it's fascinating that you had the guts, I suppose, to do that. I mean, what do you think it takes to be able to do something like that? I mean, you said you had, a very small amount of money and you just sort of, used your nous, so to speak. But have you got any advice for anybody who wants to either set up a film festival or something like that, who wants to follow in your grand footsteps?
Well, there's two emotions that people have when they're thinking of a new idea. One of them works and one of them doesn't. One is scared and one is fear. If you have fear, you will not get out of bed in the morning. But if you're scared, you leap out of bed trying to keep the wolves from snapping at your heels. I don't even know if I could do this again now. It was quite a leap of faith to actually do that. And I did it out of sheer ignorance. We're doing this 30th anniversary thing, and yesterday one of the interns found the original one-page screening schedule. In my idiocy, I had a shorts program with 14 shorts. And we put 12:05, this one starts, 12:13, this one starts. I listed them in this one sheet instead of just saying International Shorts Program or something. And the other thing that first year, you preview the movie on, in those days, VHS cassette, and on the spine, the filmmaker would write 97 minutes, not realizing that didn't include credits and all the other stuff. Maybe it's 110 minutes. So I would schedule 97 minutes and allow 5 minutes for the next screening, forgetting that you need to get people out of the cinema, you need to clean the popcorn off and let new people in. So by the end of the first day, we were already running half a day late. And by day 3, we were screening day 2. It was just so stupid. Had I known that, I would have looked like such an idiot. But I think the real short question, answer to your question, Jenny, is what makes anything work is your idea. And the trick is, how do you test the idea without shooting yourself in the foot, like I did, or embarrassing yourself, as I've done, and making sure that your idea is scalable, gets bigger, and also that other people want, i.e. your audience. Who wants to see an independent film? There's so many good Hollywood films, right? Anyway.
Oh, that's helpful. Thank you, Elliot. So there's so many questions that I do want to ask, but I think first of all, given that a lot of people here are screenwriters or wannabe screenwriters, I wanted to focus a little bit on the books that you've written, so the screenwriting books that you've written. And I've read quite a few in my quest to try and write scripts. And the one that really stands out for me is your Write and Sell the Hot screenplay. So this is Elliot's book that I'm talking about. And what is wonderful about this book and the advice that you give, from the courses that you teach and to many of us here, is you focus on things that seem fairly obvious probably to experienced screenwriters and filmmakers, but to those starting out or those trying to sort of hone their craft, you really focus on obvious things like show don't tell, which I'd heard many times, but it's the way you it's the way you write it, it's the way you tell them, it's the way you tell them in this book, which is wonderful. The obvious thing that you can only write what can actually be shown on the screen. And also another thing that sort of stuck out for me was how many people, when they are writing, they focus on what the audience will think when they actually see it on the big screen, when it's in the cinema or on TV. But very helpfully here, you point out that actually the person that you actually need to convince is the person that is reading your script. Mm-hmm. Do you have any sort of, obviously, nuggets of wisdom to share with people on writing a good script that's actually going to be taken forward?
Well, thanks. But let's start at the basics. You got a great idea for a movie, yeah? Let's say you got a great idea. The first thing I would do now is I would consult our distinguished also guest here, Tony Morris, a lawyer, to make sure I wasn't breaching any copyright. laws or anything like that, because if I was, my idea is not going to hunt, as they say back home. So that would be number one. The second thing I would really try to do is um, test the idea. I would try to get a pitch down and pitch it to people like here tonight at Writers Lab, Collab Writers, and see, what do you think of this? And, or if you're meeting someone one-on-one at a networking session, hey, can I tell you about my new script? And when you pitch it, look at their eyes, and the minute they glaze over, you know you haven't hit it. A friend of mine would take his new screenplay ideas to the local primary school and tell the story to 8-year-olds who have a very short attention span. And the minute they got squirming and fidgeting, he would know it was a crap. Either the story was wrong or the way he was telling it was wrong. We are essentially storytellers, and learning how to tell the story is key. In terms of your comment about cinema, and when we go to the cinema, the film is to you sitting in a cinema or on Netflix, but it's the reader. This is the person with a checkbook who could buy your script. And this person, typically in the film industry, is male, late 50s to 60s. Tony could back me up on this, I hope. And they're usually overweight. They have a crocodile skin belt. They have a silk shirt with some chicken grease on the collar. They know nothing about movies. And they probably have 50 other scripts to read on the weekend. And they're sitting on a big oval bed with the black satin on it. And at the foot of the bed, Saturday morning, let's say, and at the foot of the bed is a big widescreen TV with The Game. And they got 50 scripts to read. Oh, they got to leave at 2 o'clock to go to some social event. And if you listen very carefully, you'll hear the tinkle of ice cubes in a martini glass in the hallway down at the kitchen being prepared by the trophy bride. This is your competition. And when they pick up your screenplay, they'll look at the first page. Now, I did some research when I started Raindance. Did you know that the average attention span, this is American, mind you, I think it's the same here, is 15 seconds? Yeah? And if you've got a television at home, you've got what, 500 channels? Yeah? Right? And if you're a guy, you flick, right? You flick from channel to channel, right? And if there's something that interests you, you watch, and if it doesn't, you go to the next. That's 15 seconds. Well, your first page is only a minute, typed properly. That means in the first 8 lines, you need to do something so amazing that this executive, with many other things on their mind, oh, and they forgot to put their golf clubs in the back of the Porsche ragtop convertible, right? Then you need to do it again to the next 8 lines, and a third time. And at the bottom of page 1, you have to do something so gripping, so emotional, so titillating if it's a rom-com, so horrible if it's a horror story, so fantastic if it's a thriller, that it forces this, I hate to use the word elderly, gentleman with no knowledge of the film industry to take his thumb and forefinger out of whosever or whatever body orifices they have it shoved in, lick their fingers and turn the page, and then you need to do it again and again and again all the way through. And what keeps people's attention is not the pictures, excuse me, so much, it's the emotion. If you can elicit emotion on every single page, on every single line, if you make people feel what's happening, people will say, hey, that's a great script. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does make sense. Thank you, Elliot. Another thing that that you say quite often is that it's not what you know in this industry, it's who you know. And obviously Raindance is one of those venues for meeting people, as is Collab Writers, and of course other groups and film festivals and organizations. Have you got any tips from your years of experience and having seen people network in your community and other communities on how to make that work?
You know, believe it or not, I'm the shyest person in the world. You know me well enough, Jennie, that I have this bravado exterior that I sort of put on like an overcoat. I'm actually really, really shy. And networking was something that my big regret 30 years ago when I started Raindance, I was terrible at networking. I remember once the first time I did a BBC interview radio, they asked me a question. I was giving yes and no answers. And the interviewer actually said, "You need to say more than one word." But I was so shy. But I think the skill of meeting people, asking the introductory questions, um, uh, I think the secret trip, if you're meeting someone one on one or in a group of people, is don't talk, ask questions, get the other person talking. And the minute that happens, as you've got me talking, Jenny, the minute that happens, you will get people thinking highly of you. But if you just sort of go on, twist their arm and start blowing in their ear, they're going to walk away from you. We're actually, I don't want to do a sales thing, but we're doing the power of networking next week on, is it Wednesday? Um, excuse me, this is hay fever, not COVID, by the way, where this guy will show you how to actually enter a room full of strangers with your coat on, and you walk across the room slowly, hang your coat up at the coat check, walk back diagonally across the room, and if no one speaks to you, it's time to go. I mean, he'll show you different, the startup questions and so on. He's an actor and film producer and stage producer. Very, very interesting thing. It's a 2-hour thing at Raindance. If you're able to come to Charing Cross, brave the traffic, the smoke and dust of central London. That's Wednesday night from 7 till 9.
That sounds very good. And of course, you also have boozing and schmoozing, which I assume still goes on.
It does indeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
If any of you go, be interested to know if any of you go to that. We're getting about 100 people the second Monday of every month at Ruby Blue in Leicester Square. And at 8 o'clock, our MC calls it to room to quiet, and then you get to stand on the stool for 30 seconds to say who you are, what you're looking for, off the next person, as like, not quite like speed dating, but sort of in the same kettle of fish, if I can use a British fishing analogy.
That's really helpful, Elliot. And on the subject of film festivals, which obviously you are an expert in, do you think that film festivals have a role in networking as well? Because I know from various collaborators that I've spoken to that they actually see that as an excellent opportunity to network and find potential collaborators. Have you found that that's the case?
Oh, exactly. I'm still working with people I met year one 30 years ago. There's a couple different types of people that come to film festivals. First of all, there's the general audience, the person you're sitting next to, and you share a common interest in whatever film. It could be that your neighbor knows a filmmaker. It could be that your neighbor just wants that kind of film, right? There's those kinds of people. But usually, especially at film festivals like Raindance, the filmmakers almost always are there. So you can watch the film and then say to them later on, how did you do that? And the third kind of person that comes to Raindance are the people like Tony, who does excellent panels at Raindance. You can meet some real industry experts, people that are a much higher level than maybe anyone else in the room, who can help pull you up the so-called career ladder, as Tony has done many, many times.
That's good to know. So as well as networking and learning and collaborating, what do you see as the key role of film festivals and I guess of Raindance, because that's where your expertise lies?
Well, there's to use the corporate word, there's the B2C thing, business to public, just getting this stuff out to people who should know, like building audiences for independent film. And that's so important in these troubled times filled with political strife, wars, pandemics, and inflation. Everyone's worried. And independent film have messages from filmmakers that show a different way of looking at it. And they're also very educative. So that's that. But for the filmmakers themselves, there's 3 basic reasons you go to any film festival. First of all, is to sell your film so you can pay back your investors. And again, Tony, sorry to pick on you, but I know you've represented many filmmakers with films at many film festivals, and now having to decide what distribution offer is worth taking or not. So that's number one. The second one is to get reviewed and interviewed so people get to know about your film, starting the so-called buzz. You know, a distributor is more likely to buy your film if a lot of people are saying good things about it or anything about it. So that's a really important thing. So when you go to a film festival, make sure you have a publicist and you have a publicity strategy. Maybe get yourself listed on some of the industry panels so your face gets out there. And the third reason filmmakers need film festivals is hopefully to win an award. And remember, there's three kinds of films out there. There's the big Hollywood movie, Tom Cruise in. You don't even care. You go to see it because of the big star. And the second kind of movie is the one that's a little bit more vague than the Hollywood movie. It will have 3 or 4 names at the top of the poster. People like, Danny DeVito, Ray Liotta, who's passed away now. And then a picture of 4 or 5 actors looking into the screen like that. Yeah. And then there's a kind of film that nobody's ever heard of, with no actor you've never heard of, with a poster that really is intriguing and a title that may not make sense, but it's won an award at a film festival. So maybe on a Friday night, you're not interested in Tom Cruise or the so-called ensemble cast. You're more interested in something spicy. Here's a festival that won an award at, say, Raindance. People who know better must think this is a good film. I will take a chance in seeing this film, and if it's not any good after 20 minutes, I'll walk out. I don't know if that answered that question, but that was the best I could do in this limited amount of time. Thank you, Jennie.
It did, Elliot. And I'm going to move you on to some of the many films that you have produced, because I've kind of lost count because there's so many. How do you choose what it is that you get involved in producing or exec producing? What is it that sort of speaks to you?
Again, I refer to Tony because we both got a project together from someone that I met through Raindance that has been on and off for about 2 years now, and it was an intriguing story. And I'm not at liberty to say what that is, but it seemed like a very good and marketable movie. Unfortunately, the economics and the political and financial pathway that the producer chose isn't one that means that this film's likely to be made. I think Tony knows what I'm talking about. So that's something I was intrigued because of the whole social, not impact, but it was a very interesting, it was a period piece, or would be a period piece if made. So that's one kind of thing. The other kind is a film that I personally am passionate in about the story, the script, the writer, the director, almost as I'm doing a favor for a friend, as I've done a few of those. But the easiest one to produce is one that comes to you that all it needs is me to spend a few days of my time, not years of my time, connecting the filmmaker with the lawyer. Again, I've done that with Tony, with The Effects of Lying. Yeah, a film I thought was decent enough, and Tony thought it was decent enough, and I introduced them to a publicist. They already had a director, they already cast, they already had the money. That's easy. That's easy to do. So those are the ones that are easiest to say yes to. But the ones, like the first one I mentioned, there's one that just keeps going off and on. You can spend years of your life pursuing a film like that. A film that I executive produced called Alice, 4 years in the making, 40,000 euros in France, in French. And I joined because of the 63 cast and crew. There was not a single piece of paper between anyone. It wins the big prize at South by Southwest in 2019, one of the biggest festivals in America. And everyone wanted to buy it. She couldn't sell it because she didn't have any contracts. That's when I got involved with some advice from Tony again, trying to sort that out. It's still not sorted out. So that's a Pandora's box. It's a Kafka-esque type situation that I got myself dragged into because I liked the film.
No. I'm just going to go over to Tony, who might have something to say on that.
Me?
Tony.
Oh, right. Hi. Yeah, hi. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned those two films, Elliot, because the first of them, there was a very significant development budget. And both Elliot and I and the other executive producer who was brought in told the people, why are you spending money on this, that, and the other? For example, a 5-figure sum paid to a well-known record producer to make a recording of what was going to be the title track to the film. They hadn't even finalized the screenplay. And both Elliot and I said to the producers, you do realize that you will not raise the money just because DJX has produced a, that's not his real name, by the way. DJX has produced a track. So the idea was good. The script, and I'm not a producer, I thought it was a bit iffy. And I think Elliot's point is very good about, I don't agree about the greasy guy with the ice in the martini, but this particular script, I found it a struggle to read. And to me, a good script is one that I pick up and I just read it there and then, hour and a half done. So the point is that if you have a development budget, however good the idea may be, you can end up with a rubbish script and pissing the money away on things that you shouldn't. The other one you mentioned, the lying one, is fabulous. I mean, have you seen it, Elliot? John's film.
Oh yes, of course, The Effects of Lying. I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what these guys did with a very, very small budget was absolutely fantastic. From the point of view that, you know, these 2-3 guys in their 20s, they're out of film school. They found a very good screenplay. They produced it very intelligently in the sense of how they scheduled it, how they scheduled the shots, minimizing locations, maximizing the use of very good establishment shots, using actors that, you know, not Tom Cruise, but people that you've seen on telly millions of times. And to go to a festival, I mean, they've had one distribution offer already, which I seldom tell these people to bugger off, but I did tell them to bugger off. It would kill the film if they accepted the thing. But it's a fantastic calling card. These 20-somethings can go anywhere and say, look, with not very much money, we made this film. It looks, you know, it's not fancy schmancy photography, but it's good. And I think Elliot's championing of these people rubbed off on me because I ended up doing quite a lot of the stuff pro bono for them because I just liked them and I liked the project.
And was that largely because you liked the, you know, the actual content, or was it the people as well, or just a combo?
No, it's the people. I didn't read the screenplay. I just thought that the lead producer was one of these guys that he's going somewhere. I would say. Don't you think, Elliot?
Yeah. He's just he's honest. He's very direct. There's no bullshit. If you say something he doesn't like, he will tell you right away, and he'll say why without any judgment. He's just he's easy to listen to, easy to be with, and if you ask him to do something, give him some advice, he actually goes and does it.
That's the point. He listens.
Yeah.
But listen, I may be talking a load of rubbish, but he does listen to me.
Yeah.
And there are 1 or 2 occasions when he said, well, I know you said this, but you know, those are the breaks with making a film. You're not going to get every decision right.
Yeah.
And in fact, you learn from the wrong decisions so long as they're not fatal ones.
Some good tips. I hope everybody was taking notes there. So on the issue of production, Elliot, would you encourage people to get involved as exec producers on films to sort of build up their IMDb? Would you encourage that sort of thing? I mean, obviously, it's been a big part of your career, but I suspect some of that is also helping people out, as Tony said he does as well. But would you encourage people to get involved if they believe in something or believe in the people that are involved in the film?
I'll answer this rather obliquely and hopefully not too lengthily, Jenny. The film industry is composed of many different parts. There's lawyers like Tony that you need. There's accountants, there's camera people, there's distributors, there's agents, all these, and they all kind of hate each other. And you as a filmmaker need to sort of connect all these different houses together. And whatever skills you have in your very dull and boring day job are very transferable into the film industry. So if you meet someone that you want to help make a film, what skills do they need? Do you have a strong arms and back? Maybe it's lifting stuff off the truck or the van. Good, you can be a grip or a gopher or whatever. Maybe you've got good accountancy skills. Maybe you've got good social media skills. Whatever it is, you could do that. And you will get a credit because it's on their list. Make sure you get that. But if you want to launch your career as a writer or director or as a hyphenate, writer-director, for God's sake, stop talking about it, pick up your cell phone and do it. So many of the films we had submitted to Raindance here, some 16,000 from 141 countries, about 30% were shot on one of the late model smartphones in 4K. And you don't need to hire a camera, just get a few apps and a couple rigs and away you go. And you make a movie and you can get your IMDb credit, put it up yourself. It doesn't mean to say that the movie's any good, of course, and maybe you do not want to put a bad movie up on something like IMDb, but people will get to know that you're actually serious, and through the process of trial and error, you will surround yourself with a group of people who dig what you're doing, you dig what they're doing, you get along, and the 3 a.m. Scene where you're stuck somewhere without a key to a house and everyone's tired, do you fight or not? That's sort of the 3 a.m. rule we have at Raindance. Would you like to be stuck in the office with no internet at 3 a.m. with an urgent email that needs to go out with someone, and you're trying to fix the router? Would you fight or not? Because if you fight, this is not someone you should work with. And slowly you will make yourself a team of people you work with. People I worked with in the early years, Edgar Wright, Chris Nolan, they all are still working with pretty much the same people as they did on their first or second film. Because it's just like you when you're moving house, right? Who do you call? You call someone you know is going to show up when the van shows up, not 4 hours later. You could have a best friend you would not ask because they're unreliable for something like that. You build this team and you start making movies and everyone is screaming for content. The television stations, have you read in the newspapers how the cinemas are, like Cineworld's going bust because there are not enough good films right now because of COVID. The streamers are screaming, the TV stations, everyone's screaming for content.
Yeah.
That's the hardware. You filmmakers are the software. You need to create content to make the hardware run. And the trick is, how do you monetize it? And those of you who are writing, that's what I call wetware, the ideas. And the trick is, how do you get it out of your head onto paper, onto the screen?
Yeah. So just picking up on something you mentioned there, you mentioned about some of the cinemas going bust. So if the future is streaming and the likes, how does that change how independent filmmakers and writers go about their craft?
The money that you make on films these days doesn't come from cinema. It rarely did for independent filmmakers. It comes from VOD, which comes in 3 different flavors. There's TVOD, transactional VOD, like Amazon, where you pay $3 for a movie. Yeah, they keep some, you get the rest. Then there is AVOD, advertising VOD, where you give it to someone for free, but you allow them to put ads in it. And again, you split the revenue from the ads. And then there's SVOD, subscription VOD. That's your Netflix, where you sell it to a SVOD streamer that will, split the ad revenue with you. That's where the most of the money that I see coming in right now, unless you're lucky enough, as we're hoping, as Tony mentioned, with The Effects of Lying, get a distributor who believes in this wonderful little film enough to plunk some money on the table and then share the theatrical, the television, the streaming income, and so on all the way through. But there's so many new ways that films are being monetized now that did not exist 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you needed $1 million to make a film. It went into cinemas, then went on VHS, and then it went on television and cable and so on. And then we had the digital revolution in the noughties, where you could make films very, very cheaply. And now the pandemic has highlighted the value of the streamers. People couldn't go out, so they're stuck at home with their laptop or their television, forced to watch something on television. And how was that monetized? SVOD, TVOD, or AVOD. And then, of course, I don't have time to talk about this, the FAST channels, free ad-supported television channels that are being put together, where you put together a 12 or 24 hour of similar content, offer it for free to a streamer, and split the ad revenue. And there's about 35 streamers around the world. It's not just Netflix. In different languages and so on. A friend of mine, that Tony knows, Simon Hunter's in Jordan, doing fast channel Arabic language cooking shows, Arabic language fashion shows, Arabic language travel shows, all on these free. In other words, if you had a streaming platform or a website and wanted to show it, they'd give it to you for free. You just have to share the revenue with them. It's a fascinating way it's happened.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I also wanted to just ask a sort of a general question about, obviously, your mission has been, one of your missions has been to champion independent film. Is there anything that we can do as a collective to help? Do you have a call to action or anything that you're sort of focused on for the future of independent film?
I think we are a small, passionate group, and I don't mean the numbers of people here as being small. This is a wonderful group tonight. In terms of people who are astute and aware and view independent voices and independent film, independent music, independent writing seriously. People who believe that the future of the world is in terrible peril right now, and it's the voice of the artists that matter more than anything in whatever medium. I think the number one thing we could do, and that's why, Jennie, what you're doing at Collab is so wonderful, is offering each other the support. Well done. That might have been, Elliot, that might have been a noble failure, but well done for doing it. Better luck next time. Just, give me something to think about when I'm crying on my pillow. That's good. That's kind of support. And of course, organizations that you admire, supporting them, clicking on their website, liking their blog posts. There's so many things that don't require any money, but just require a bit of attitude. The big poison, I think, that has happened to our society in the last, well, back up. I'm old enough to remember the Vietnam War and all the protests in America, which are hugely, hugely, hugely front page news. The 4 kids that were shot dead in Kent State way back and so on. People really cared. People that you're lined up at the supermarket waiting for your groceries, they were talking about Vietnam back then. But what's happened is this horrible thing called apathy. Yeah, I know it's wrong, but what can I do about it? It's not true. Each of us have a voice, and we should be championing anyone that we like. And I see Emma's here, and who else is here that I know? I know Greg is doing that in music. Oh my God, I'm losing the names here. And those of you, and Barbara and so on, you are creators. And don't tell me if 10 likes on your blog post or 10 likes on your YouTube video or 10 downloads of your $2.99, whatever it is, if that wouldn't make a difference. You're not going to go on holiday with 20 quid, but and then the people that do it. You see, it all becomes, We need to support each other. We're bombarded with the advertising from Hollywood, with the big names and so on, and they occasionally make a good movie, although I don't think they made a good movie for quite a while. But if we don't sing each other's praises, sympathize with what I call heroic failures, and champion, as Tony just did with this wonderful movie, The Effects of Lying, then what are we here for? Why are we even pretending we're interested in creativity or writing? Why are we here tonight? Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Does that sound too pompous? I hope not.
No, I completely agree, Elliot. And you know that one of my big things is telling stories that matter, because I don't think we're here just to make bubblegum or horror movies or something sort of ineffectual. I think we really are here as creatives to tell stories that matter. I think ultimately we're here to make a contribution and to give something, to leave something for future generations that's actually meaningful. And I know that's something that is very important to Raindance. Yeah, and I guess also it's a thank you from me and from Collab Writers as well for all the support and encouragement that's helped launch this creative enterprise, because certainly without you, I definitely would not have started it. I had a dream, but you definitely encouraged me to do it. So thank you very much.
Oh, just time out for a minute. Flattery will get you everywhere, as you know. But the hours or whatever I've spent, it's totally meaningless because I believed in what you were doing. And that didn't make it work. It made it fun. So thank you in return for allowing me a certain level of fun.
Thank you. So I think I've asked you many, many questions. So I'm going to turn it over to the floor, because I know there's a lot of you who have many questions for Elliot. So please do stick your hand up or stick your questions in the chat. Okay, Swati's quick there, quick off the mark. Go ahead, Swati.
Thanks, Jennie. Okay, I was just waiting for my turn to ask, but at the same time, I was quite engrossed with the entire conversation. And before I ask my question, this is just heartfelt gratitude to Elliot and to you, Jennie, because it all started with a one live session I did with Elliot on Instagram 2 years ago, and from that moment, I've met so many people who introduced me to you, and then I met all these wonderful collaborators, starting with Lucy, and then I met Nina and Barbara, and I've made 2 short films already with you as well. And it has been a wonderful experience knowing you, knowing Elliot, and Elliot has been continuously championing. He not only talks about it. I was just a small independent filmmaker, just making short films, but he's really encouraged, and past 2 years knowing you and him has been wonderful. Okay, so this is something I really wanted to say. And now to my question. Thanks, Elliot. So, Elliot, the question is about collaboration with film festivals. I know you're doing something with TIFF. The pitching competition. You've collaborated with TIFF, and it's happening. So, how does the collaboration work with the film festivals? Isn't it competition? So how do you do that, and what do you hope to see out of it?
Well, there's 2 different ways festivals collaborate with each other. In 2019, I went to the Venice Film Festival. I was an invited guest, gave a panel, and we were spent there for 3-4 days. It was fantastic. The thing we're doing in Toronto in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Yes, 2 weeks. We just rented a room near the Toronto Film Festival and said that we were at TIFF. We're completely outside of it. It's a bit of this. It depends how much your budget is. I mean, Venice, it didn't cost us anything. We just went. It was fantastic. It was a wonderful experience. And we were going to have Venice come to Raindance, but then COVID happened and new people, and it hasn't happened. So I think you just need to know who the programmers are, who the event organizers are, and see if your idea for an event that you could present to them how that works. South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, one of the most amazing festivals, which I've never been to, currently have on their website, you can pitch your idea for an event or a panel. And if they like it, you're in. If they don't, you're not. Or some film festivals will say to a law firm like Tony's, if you give us $10,000, you can have a 2-hour slot and talk about law. That's the other way you can get collaborate. So collaborate becomes a commercial thing. But the best way to collaborate as a filmmaker is to make the best movie the world has ever seen. And when you do that, everyone's going to want it. And they'll send you a ticket, put you up in a hotel, and roll out the red carpet. Hallelujah. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. It's just, you make it sound so simple.
It is simple. It is simple. It's just bloody difficult. It's really difficult, but it's really a simple plan.
But yeah, it's just great, seeing all these collaborations. It's like getting the best of both festivals. Thanks, Elliot.
Thanks, Swati. I'm just going to ask one from the chat before coming to you, Julie. So Filmy Arts asks, how do you pitch to festivals with no budget versus spending millions to enter short films or features or TV pilot?
I was coughing, so I muted myself. All film festivals have people who look at the films. And the big film festivals, Toronto, where I'm going next week, have 40 well-paid festival programmers. That costs money. How does the festival cover that? We have 14. How do we cover that salary? Other festivals that are very small could be mom and dad or brother and sister run the festival, and they do it themselves, and they don't charge anything. So part of the goal when you submit to a film festival is decide what level of film festival you're going to. The bigger ones, you're going to need money. Submission fees, if they're free. Cannes Film Festival is free to submit, but you have to run your film in a screening room in London for the British films, and they come in and watch the films. My old office, Tony and Berwick Street, around from Mr. Young's. We knew when they were doing the Cannes screening because all the filmmakers would be lined up waiting to see when the top dog from Cannes would go in, and Mr. Young, the guy running the screening room, would book 20 feature films for a day because he knew no one would watch more than 10 minutes in the days of 35 millimeter. Do you see how that works? So, and then he would charge each of the filmmakers 200 quid for the hour and a half to watch the movie. Yeah, but that's just the business. I think the thing to remember is you need to have a festival strategy, something that you need to decide why you want your film to be in any film festival, and then more particularly, what kind of festival. Is it a documentary? Is it a short? Is it a horror? Because there's Fright Fest, which is this past weekend in central London. Absolutely rammed with people, fans of horror films. So if you had a horror film, you'd want to go there. Do you want to make your film because you want to make a lot of money? Fair enough. Do you want to make your film because you view it as a sophisticated dating game? Fair enough. Or do you want to make a film because you have something really important that you want to say? We had such a film 6 years ago now at Raindance called The Plastic Ocean. It was funded by a charity on the west coast of America and was about how all the oceans are filling up with plastic and the horrible things of that. 6 years ago, no one was talking about plastic in the ocean, but we're all talking about plastic in the ocean. They didn't charge 1 penny to see this film. In fact, they paid for it to be screened in over 40 parliaments around the world 5-6 years ago. Guess what? We're all concerned about plastic in the ocean. That's the reason they made that film. So it doesn't matter to me why you want to make your film. I just want to know why you want to make your film. And then, of course, the question is how. That's a whole separate conversation.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go over to Julie because Julie had a hand up before.
Sure.
Julie, do you have a question to ask? I can't hear you, Julie. Can you unmute?
It's a little button on the bottom, Julia.
I've
Julie.
asked you to unmute, but you need to unmute yourself, Julie. I can't
The
unmute you.
toolbar on the bottom. Oh, there
Hear
you
you,
go.
great.
Okay, right. Supposition. I've written, made 2 short films, but now I've written 2 plays. One of which is, I tell you what, it would suit, although my name's Bevan, and he happens to have the name Tim Bevan, it would be a film. He could make a film out of my play.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do with that? Would you go knocking on Mr. Bevan's door and saying, look, do you want this play because it will make a film that you'd really like? Or what would you do?
There's different routes you could do, and Tony, jump in if you want. Tim Bevan is not going to read your script or your stage play, regardless of your similar surname. He's just not. He will read it, however, if it is presented to him by a producer who's already done a lot of the legwork, got a director, got a cast, got some of the money together, and so on. See, water runs downhill. You're asking him to make the water run uphill. Anything you can do to make it easier for the person you're pursuing, you must do it. Another route you could do is get the stage play produced in theater and get lots of 5-star reviews. Maybe you'll find a cast member who is on the up and up, and with this, they suddenly launches their career. That would be another route. The other thing you could do is try publishing it in another medium. Maybe do it as an audiobook where you have just the sound, the actors. This is a new way to make money too, as a writer. But those are my suggestions. It's it's what you know. It's not what you know, it's who. So if you know someone who knows Tim Bevan, and if you manage to get him stuck to a chair for an hour and a half, as Tony says, and decide this is really, really good, then you've got a chance. If you go to Tim Bevan and he reads it for an hour and a half and you already have 75% of the funding in place, it's pretty hard for him to say no. Do you see what I mean? So there's a lot of legwork that needs to be done before you present to Tim Bevan, basically, starting with the business plan and so on.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Elliot.
And by the way, don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged, because the fact that you're creating content is wonderful. The issue that you have at the moment, the issue, Julie, that you're facing is how do you market it? So your question, how do you get it to Tim Bevan? It's not a Tim Bevan question, it's a marketing question. And marketing is a whole separate thing. The filmmakers that I know, and the ones that Tony and I mentioned together, making the film is 10% of the work, is the marketing and monetizing. That is the tough bit. And the more you, as a filmmaker or as a screenwriter, you understand about how movies or screenplays or novels are marketed, the more you understand that, the more informed you will be as a writer or filmmaker.
Thanks, Elliot. And I think you've got courses at Raindance on marketing as well, haven't you?
We sure do.
Yeah.
We've got these courses and we've got these courses.
I
and
know.
I'll show you these courses, and over here we got this course. We've got a course for everything.
I know, it's wonderful. I'm going to go over to Mark because he's had his hand up for a while. Mark?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
So I have this really peculiar question. Elliot, you're going to laugh me out of the place, but I'm taking my chance with this one. So just to give you a background, I wrote and produced a feature a couple of years ago, and we put it out. That time I had absolutely no experience with film festivals, but we put it out to a few. It did pretty well. I mean, we didn't really get it out to any of the big festivals, but we still took our chance, put it out there. And this happens to be a thriller / not really a horror, but somewhere in between, right? Now what happens is we tie up with a film festival that actually gets us to go online with Prime Video Direct. So a few months in, and I have this movie up on Prime. My problem is nobody watches it,
Yeah.
you know. So it's like probably, exactly what you said. Making the movie is easy, but I think the marketing bit is a totally different word. So so I just wanted to pick your brains on this and get an idea about. So here's a completely different problem, right? We have a movie. It may not be the best of films. It's a very, very, very micro, mini, low budget film. So it comes with its, with all those shades of issues that it might have. But yeah, we managed to find an opening somewhere, and we've got it out there. And as a filmmaker and as a writer, I all I want is for people to actually see the film. I don't, at this point, it's my first feature, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
It makes the money, it doesn't make the money. We've spent a little bit of money on it. But more importantly, how do you, create that traction? How do you, once it's out there, how do you actually get people to see it? I think the other part of this question would be that this is by and large an Indian production. It has Indian actors. It has a very Indian setting. It is an English film. It's made in English, but for all practical purposes, it's an Indian film. I'm not sure whether I'm not sure whether the target market makes sense, because it's out there. It's today, of course, you have a lot of regional and foreign language films out on OTT. But I'm not sure how you pitch, especially when you're pitching a completely different culture up there, if there's something different that you need to do, if there's anything that you need to probably focus on. Maybe if you could, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this particular problem.
It's interesting. Are you British? Are you in this?
No, I'm in India. I'm actually sitting in Bangalore.
You're in India. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Indian movies are the flavor of the month. I'm putting in the chat box a website called Vueler.com. This is an online digital marketplace. And it's free to upload your film with all the meta tagging and so on. Now, what Vueler has, about 8,000 film acquisition executives from 140 different countries. And there's going to be some interested in your film. And they're mainly interested, as I said earlier, on the VOD, the different types of VOD transactions. And the website, and you transact through the website, and then once you get the money, they charge 10%, which is very, very cheap. So that's one way to get more people to your thing. Just get the South African cable license for 6 months for $500 or whatever it is. You will get a bit of money. But the main way that you get people to watch your film is by advertising. I have an author friend of mine, Tony Morris, who I think Jennie knows. He advertises his audiobooks. He spends $1,000 a month on Google ads. He's got 10 of them. He's making like $25,000, $30,000 a month now from books he wrote during COVID. They're all thrillers. The other thing that's really good about what you told me that I stuck out is it's genre specific.
Right.
It's definitely not a drama. Drama is the kiss of death. All movies are dramas, but we don't know what type. You said horror thriller. So get the really, really good poster that you can make it different sizes. So you can do it on TikTok, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and do those kinds of compelling images with the link where they can go to your website and buy it, or whoever's selling it.
Right.
And maybe you shouldn't be marketing it to people at this point. You should be marketing to distributors, people who buy films. That might be good. So you need a good 60 or 90-second trailer. You need a press kit, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It does work. But as I said earlier, this part of the movie making process is more work, from my point of view, than actually writing the script, shooting the movie. Or at least
Absolutely.
as much.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you both. Does anybody have any more questions for Elliot? Emma?
Hi, Elliot.
Hi.
So my question is, what still inspires you and what ambition do you still have of things that you want to do that you haven't yet done? And what kind of movies would you like to make if you had an enormous budget?
I'm not interested in enormous budget. I'm interested in movies and projects that change
Oh,
people's
good enough
lives.
budget then. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have a film at Raindance that the programming team turned down till I saw it, and I thought, wow, it's all set in East London. It's called Banglatown. This mark is an Indian movie, but it's full of Bengalis and Indians and Pakistanis, anyone who's not white, and they're all illegal immigrants. And the star is a young dad. He's a single dad. He's broke because he wants to be an actor, and of course he can't get acting work. So he meets some hoodlums in East London who are all white, and they convince him to start a boxing match. And the only boxers he can find are illegal immigrants. And one of them says to the promoter, well, what's the prize? And he said, well, it's not going to be cash, but you will get a well-forged British passport. Now, this is what he calls comedy for a cause. I just think it's hilarious. But the projects like that are, oh, can I use the word hip, are interesting, are evocative, that make people think, but more importantly, leave that little core of emotion at the end, that little thing that you feel in your heart, in your chest, a film that you think about the first time you wake up in the morning, the morning after the night before. These are the things that I like help seeing birthed, as I know Tony does, as his wonderful work as a lawyer. And it just gives you a great deal of satisfaction to see something actually conceived and born. A bit like perhaps those of you who are parents might remember that magic moment when your first was born.
Thank you.
Amit has also got their hand up.
Sure.
Would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, sorry. Hi, how you doing?
Hi. Hi, Dave.
Hi. No, I just wanted to say firstly, your book is absolutely amazing. I've read it from beginning to end, highlighted it, got lots of sticky notes inside it, so it's absolutely amazing. Really quickly, before I ask my question, I just want to tell you my background. So basically, when I was quite young, maybe about between say 6 to 12 years old, I used to do a lot of theatre acting, and I was quite good because a lot of the audience would come up to our parents and say, your son is so amazing. But then being Indian, my parents were like, you're not going to drama school. I really wanted to go. And they said, no, you've got to be a doctor, lawyer, the usual Indian thing. So I ended up being a property developer for the past 20 years. But my passion for movies had never left. So every time I would watch a movie, in the back of my head, it was always like, I'm not in the right industry. So about a year ago, I decided to bite the bullet and just say, basically, do you know what? I don't want to be on my deathbed and regret something. I need to make a movie. So what I've decided to do was write my own screenplay and direct it myself. Now, the positive thing about myself is I know that I'm very creative when it comes to photography, cinematography, videoing, editing, color grading, all that stuff. What my strategy is once I've written my screenplay, and I've got like 6 books on screenplay, I've done a lot of research, unbelievable amounts of research. So I'm writing my screenplay at the moment, and in my head, this is going to be my strategy. Is number one, I want to kind of see if I can go to a producer that can raise funding, and it can be, and the producer raises all the finance to get it made, assuming he's interested in the script. If he's not interested in the script, then there's a second option of saying, right, I need to raise money myself, get a Red or an RE camera and go really high quality, make sure the stories is great. But that might be expensive, and I might think, oh, you know, I don't want to do that. I've also got my own 4K cameras. I've got 2 with my own audio equipment, all my editing software, everything. And I might end up saying, right, you know what? I'm just going to shoot the thing myself with my own audio. I've got to obviously find the actors and actresses. But in my head, what I'm thinking about is if I was to go to festivals, that's something shot on an A3 4K camera, and someone actually loved the movie, would a distributor say, do you know what, we want to buy your film? And could they distribute it on a camera that's not, because on Netflix, for example, they have a certain camera list and they won't buy your movie if it's shot on a 4K A3, which is what I have. But Prime Video, Amazon Prime, you can actually upload your own movie, but then it comes to marketing, you've got to spread the word and everyone goes to see it. so my question is in festival, would you suggest it's better to have better equipment if I was to aim for a distributor to buy it or distribute it? Or do you know what, don't worry about it, shoot it on the A3 in 4K and a distributor could still buy it? Is that possible?
Have you ever seen Blair Witch Project?
Yes.
That was shot on 1K or half K. I'd be very careful about acquiring all these cameras because you might end up with your property background in the camera rental business, which would be a far cry from what you want to be in the film.
No, not one.
And by the way, your experience as a property entrepreneur, you see, as a property entrepreneur, you find a piece of land, right? And then you hire an architect to do the drawings. That's the script, right?
Yeah.
Then you get the money and then you build it. And when you've built this tower, you start selling the condos off, selling the territories. You sell Brazil, you sell America, whatever. It's exactly the parallels between
100% agree. 100%
very, very sad. When you write your script, make sure you get some good feedback. I would also encourage you to do some smartphone short films just to get experience directing, to see take a page of your script and get some mates and just shoot it on your cell phone. Again, not to sound like a salesman.
That's my one issue is I haven't got a problem shooting or directing. My problem is I don't have any actors or actresses. So I know about casting agents, but then my worry is how much do I need to pay actors and actresses? Can I get some unemployed actors and actresses to say, look, I'll pay you food, I'll give you 100, 200 quid a day, which I can afford, and get it done that way?
In theory, every actor in the world is unemployed at least 1 to 10 weeks per year, sometimes 20 weeks a year. It's be amazing who you can get.
Yeah.
The film that Tony mentioned, some extremely well-known Indian actors are in it, well-known to British Indians here. I think the investment in a casting director is well worth it. It's £1,000 to £3,000 a week for 2 to 3 weeks. They will only take your project on if they're convinced that you will actually make the film, because they don't call up agents unless they know the money's in the pot. And then, or networking. The 6 degrees of separation. Who do you know? Who knows? Who knows? Who, depending what actor that you want to work with. And all actors take work.
Yeah.
And all actors have an asking price and a bid price, and there could be 2 different prices, just like when you're selling property. You ask this, but you'll take that, right? So I wouldn't be afraid of that. I think in parallel with that, you should be really looking at a business plan. Like when you do a new building development, do you not do a sales plan of how much you think in market for, who's going to buy it, and how much of the money you're going to spend?
Yeah, you do all the due diligence beforehand, so you know everything from what you resell, your construction costs, who's paying what. You do everything beforehand before you even make an offer on the site.
And then you go and do your projected sales income, and then if that's more than the cost, then you go to the bank and get the finance. It's the same with the film. So you need to create a business plan for a film. It's very similar to other business. It's a startup. And then in this day and age, your social media, how you can get that going as well. That's one thing. I guess we do quite a bit of social media at Raindance. We have, excuse me, maybe 250,000 followers on the different social medias that you would add up. It's not big, but it's not small either. So all of these things tie in together, and you may want to hire a producer, so-called producer, to do the donkey. A producer is a bit like construction foreman, making sure the bricks arrive at the right day and go in the right place. And there's service producers that you can pay so much per week. There's also producers who will be paid with sweat equity. Give them a slice of the pie. But who do you know? Who can you meet?
Do producers, I'm assuming there's 2 types of producers. There's one that will say, give me the money and I'll do everything for you to manage the project. And I'm assuming there's a second one that says, I'll go and find funding for you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it just depends who I get.
And then there's a so-called executive producer, someone who does, if you like, the dating service, introduces you to a financier, you to a lawyer, you to a publicist, or whatever it is you happen to need. That's the role I'm sort of doing right now. I'm pulling out my little black book from 30 years of meeting people like Tony Morris, a wonderful lawyer. If you need a lawyer, speak to Tony. Send him a message right now, direct message. He's doing a class at Raindance coming up in a month, end of September. Basic legal contracts in one night, to going through the 19 different types of IP, how to protect it and how to monetize it. This is a
you know what?
cheap investment.
You said something when we first started. I wanted to ask you. You said that someone made a movie and they had it in a festival, but they couldn't sell it because there was no contract. But if they've made the movie, why would what was that about the contract? I didn't quite understand that. Why would they need a contract at that precise time?
Pardon me. A distributor from Germany who wants to give you, as it was in this case, 50,000 euros for your film that costs 40,000 euros, wants to make sure that all the rights are cleared, that you had the permission of all the actors, the cameraman, anyone who had a creative process in the film, had essentially sold it to you so you could sell it on.
Oh.
Can you imagine building one of your properties and you hadn't paid B&Q for the bricks?
Right. So it's crew and actors and actresses, make sure they're all in the clear rather than, okay, right, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you. I'll hope to send you my script. I'll send you my script when it's done.
Check out raindance.org. We got loads of different blog articles. We got classes. Monday night before.
Yeah, I did the director's one, and I've done the Dove Simmons one already. So I've done those two. I'm going to do a few more, but I really want to crack it on with my script at the moment, just because I've got all this in there that needs to come out.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elliot, there's a question in the chat from Katoria, which is about what happens if you're still in the dream phase and you've got half-finished scripts. Where do you start? But I would imagine you're going to say start networking, finish your scripts, and just do it. But any other advice?
The reason you're not doing it is because you lack confidence. And it's happened to me many times with some of my own creative projects. I just got, stop. And then you wonder if it's any good. And before you know it, oh, you start another one. And halfway through that, oh, Jesus, and you start another one. There's no artist or filmmaker or musician that I've ever met who's ever been happy with their project. They simply abandon them and move on to the next one, learn from their mistakes and move on. And remember, if you're not doing anything, if you're just talking about doing it, remember my golden rule for how to succeed, which is, as we all know, joggers jog, wankers wank, but filmmakers actually do stuff. And if you're not doing stuff, you shouldn't call yourself a filmmaker or screenwriter.
Might be cutting that bit out from the YouTube recording. Elliot. Does anybody have any last questions for Elliot? Because we've taken up a lot of your time.
It's nothing but good, clean fun. Come on.
I know. Patrick.
Yeah, hi, Elliot. Do you have acting courses at Raindance for directors?
We do. We just did one last weekend called, what was it called? Screen Acting for Directors. And we also have a, let me think, we have a 2-year HND, which is half the time is filmmaking, half the time is performance. On the grounds that, why as an actor would you wait for the phone to ring? Why not learn how to make your own stuff too? But the best school, Patrick, is just to do it yourself, trial and error. And again, with a cell phone, it's so easy.
Yeah, no, I was reading something or listening to something, and they were saying that doing a course in acting is very good for directors because you learn what it's like to be on the other side of the camera and kind of. So I thought that would be a good thing to do. I'm not really looking for a 2-year course. I'm a bit old for that. So I think a weekend or a couple of weeks or something, or even a short course, you know, it would.
Well, we do such short courses, Patrick. And remember, Patrick, age is in the head.
Well, death isn't. But you're right. I know what you're saying. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Charles.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, thanks, Elliot and Tony. That was really insightful. Really helped me, just expand how I'm thinking concerning film and so forth. I'm a film producer. I deal most in short films because I've got a lot of stories to tell, and features do take a long time. So I want to kind of like learn my craft and exercise my muscles. But I've come across, like through networking meetings with people who've been in the industry longer than I have, with a certain phrase that keeps popping up. And I've been reading this book that you read, Elliot, I think it's 2013, Low to No Budget film guide. And I love a phrase you got in there, which is absolutely amazing, that no one knows anything. And as I was reading that, it's making me think about this line that a lot of people keep saying, is that you can't make any money in shorts. I'd just like to find out what your thoughts are on that, because in the book, you really center on the fact that some people have made films with no cameras, or you state that some people have made films with no lights, just use natural lights and so forth. So in regards to short film, which is a medium I really want to make a lot of because of the amount of stories I can tell and produce and so forth and learn, what's your thoughts on that line? You can't make any money with shorts.
Well, you can make money from shorts, but you have to understand, again, you have to make a strategy. If you get 4 or 5 shorts and put them together as a web series, and you can sell ads on that through however you promote it, it's a marketing exercise. Or some people make shorts as proof of concept to get the money for a feature film. Did you see the film Whiplash or District 9? There's a whole bunch of feature films that started off as short films. I'm sure Swati would have a longer list than I do at the moment on that. So decide why you want to make the short film, but to learn, as someone said earlier, making a feature film is a long, involved process. But to make a short film on your flippin' cell phone, next Saturday, the 10th, we're doing a cell phone filmmaking class. One of our tutors here, he's brilliant. You will actually make little short films, like test short films, 3, 5, 10 seconds long, in one day, for a lot less than it would cost you to make a feature film, and not nearly as much as you would need to make, a 5 or 10 minute short. And by the way, your short films should be under 15, preferably under 10 minutes. It's easier to get into film festivals.
Yeah, that's definitely what I've been aiming for currently. I do have a plan in terms of the shorts I've currently got 4 shorts that I'm in editing and want to get out. But you spoke about AVOD, and my mind was to like sell advertising on the short film itself before the short film plays and so forth. And it's just because this phrase, I keep hearing it in different networking events I go to from people that are quite have done some stuff. It's just, you can't make any money. So yeah, no, thank you for that. It's helpful to understand and get some insight on. Thank you.
Great. I'm trying to log in through my phone, Jenny, because I was an idiot and left my charger at home, but on my laptop.
I think we should probably let you go because we've taken an hour and a half of your evening, Elliot.
Well, it's been a pleasant 90 minutes and felt more like 20 minutes than 90.
I know. So when is the festival if people want to get involved?
Our press launch is September 14th in 13 days. The festival opens on the 26th of October through to the 5th of November at several different London venues. If you want, Jenny, just let people know in the follow-up email when it is.
Yeah, of course.
If you look at raindance.org, you'll be plastered with information on the festival. Or look at on Twitter at Raindance or Instagram at Raindance Film Festival. We are just doing a whole 30th anniversary thing with lots of stuff that we found in the boxes behind my desk from 30, 25, 15 years ago. It's quite amusing. So do have a look at that.
By the way, Elliot, the reels and all the marketing material are really good.
You'll even see pictures of me with long, shoulder-length brown hair, which is really embarrassing.
Elliot, just want to say congratulations on 30th anniversary, and 30 years is a long time.
It is a long time.
And thank you for your great insights. I love to be on chat with you and get to know your story, how you started up.
Yeah, look, I'm going to stick my email in the chat box.
Yes, please.
My battery hangs out. So if any of you have a question or comment, or bless, a flattering comment, You'll definitely get a response from me. There we go.
Thank you, Elliot. There's lots of love for you this evening, especially in the chat as well. Lots of thanks of support and inspiration. And thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Hey, y'all, be creative, all right? Be creative.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jenny, can I do the rain? Can I do a rain dance closing ceremony? I know you're going to keep chatting.
Yes,
for a bit.
please.
Yeah, yes.
It's very simple. Patrick's got it. It is a COVID compliant, socially distanced elbow bump. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Keep creative, everyone.
Love that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Take care, everybody.
take care. Take care, everyone.
Elliot.
Bye.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Tony, and everyone.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thanks.